it snowed last night, so Mocha and I are on our way to go find Christmas. Welcome back, everybody. I'm sitting here with Mocha the reindeer, and we are going to talk to you about some of the historic traditions that was in Battle Creek in the 1800s around Christmas time. And one of those historic traditions was to share and publish Christmas stories and experiences from around the area. So we're going to dig back in time and share with you some of those wonderful stories that have been lost to time that are going to be now available to you. So come along and join us. Let's take a walk down memory lane, and please take note of my new design here. It was me. I let the dogs out, designed by Mocha here. This is available in my merchandise store at the link below, so be sure to check it out and support our channel. Let's get going. Let's begin by looking at some advertisements from the 1800s. As expected, retail stores placed ads in local newspapers connecting their goods with Christmas. What people may overlook is that the time period for this advertising for Christmas didn't just start with November and run through December. No, in those days it was common to continue Christmas ads through March, as depicted here with the store Decker in Ashby. But I know what you're going to say. You're probably going to say, well, what if they just started advertising in March? Well, I found ads running from January, February, and March for the same company. By the way, if Johannes Decker rings a bell, you might have seen some of my YouTube videos featured on Oak Hill Cemetery and the Crying Mary statue, which stands over his grave. Take a look at this ad from E.R. Smith, a bookstore promoting Jules Verne books, the latest edition, and also diaries for the coming year, 1875. I sure would like to find some of those diaries today and read what they wrote, wouldn't you? Let's start out our Christmas storytelling with a short excerpt from an article that ran in 1874. It was an interview with a man who knew Charles Dickens, the famous author of A Christmas Carol and many other great novels like David Copperfield, Great Expectations, and Oliver Twist. It reads, "He was fond of children and dogs and birds and loved to ramble the odd ways of London, having especially a surprising fondness for wandering about poor neighborhoods on Christmas Day." Kind of gives new meaning to A Christmas Carol when you think about that. Here is a write-up about a Christmas in East Leroy. It reads, "As in other localities, Christmas comes but once a year, and on Christmas we found a very congenial party of all ages, from the wee toddling bairn to the grandeur. Some 55 in all assembled at the house of R.E. Clark to have a good time and receive the presents that the Christmas tree is expected to bear. Supper was spread in the long dining room, and after it was disposed of, the opinion was expressed that Van Valkenburg's oysters and country poultry, well cooked, formed the basis of a very substantial meal, supplemented as they were by the good dishes that the Leroy ladies know so well how to make. The Christmas tree was in the form of an evergreen cross and was loaded with over 100 useful and ornamental presents in the aggregate of considerable value. value, and showing that the Battle Creek dry goods and jewelry stores and Pearsley's bookstores had received numerous calls during the preceding week. Now that sounds like a fun party, and everybody got books, and nobody got iPhones. How about that? Of the remaining stories that I'm about to share, a few of these have a religious theme, and they may or may not align with everyone's belief system. I've included them as they were written at the time, with no effort to make them secular. As a historian, I do not feel it's my place to rewrite something for the purpose of secularity. So, just for full disclosure, I feel they're quite wonderful, and the message within is worth retelling. So, feel free to retell them to others in any way you choose. Now, this next one is a story that ran on January 6, 1875 in the Battle Creek Journal. And the story's called A Christmas Legend from St. Nicholas. I suggest dimming the lights, lighting a few candles, and break out the hot chocolate, because now it's going to start getting fun. It was Christmas Eve. The night was very dark and the snow was falling fast as Herman, the charcoal burner, drew his cloak tighter around him and the wind whistled through the trees of the Black Forest. He had been to carry a load to a castle near and was now hastening home to his little hut. Although he worked very hard, he was poor, gaining barely enough for the wants of his wife and 4 little children. He was thinking of them when he heard a faint wailing. Guided by the sound, he looked about and found a little child, scantily clothed and shivering and sobbing by itself in the snow. "Why, little one, have they left thee here all alone to face this cruel blast?" The child answered nothing, but looked piteously up in the charcoal burner's face. "Well, I cannot leave you here. Thou wouldst be dead before the morning." So saying, Herman, raising it in his arms, wrapping it in his cloak, and warming its little cold hands in his bosom, when he arrived at his hut, he put down the child and tapped at the door, which was immediately opened, and the children rushed to meet him. "Here, wife, is a guest to our Christmas Eve supper," said he, leading in the little one, who held timidly to his finger with his little hand. "And welcome he is," said the wife. "Now let him come and warm himself by the fire." The children all pressed around to welcome and gaze at the little newcomer. They showed him their pretty fir tree, decorated with bright colored lamps in honor of Christmas Eve, which the good mother had endeavored to make a feast for the children. Then they sat down to supper, each child contributing of its portion for the little guest, looking with admiration at its clear blue eye and golden hair, which shone so as to shed a brighter light in the little room. And as they gazed, it grew into a sort of halo around his head, and his eyes beamed with a heavenly luster. Soon 2 white wings appeared at his shoulders, and he seemed to grow larger and larger, and then the beautiful vision vanished, spreading out his hands as in benediction over them. Herman and his wife fell on their knees, exclaiming in awe-stricken voices, "The Holy Christ Child!" and embraced their wondering children in joy and thankfulness that they entertained the heavenly guest. The next morning, as Herman passed by the place where he had found the fair child, he saw a cluster of lovely white flowers with dark green leaves, looking as though the snow itself had blossomed. Herman plucked some and carried them reverently home to his wife and children, who treasured their fair blossoms and tended them carefully in remembrance of what wonderful Christmas Eve, calling them chrysanthemums. And every year, at the same time came round, they put aside a portion of their feast and gave it to some poor little child, according to the words of the Christ. "Inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, ye have done it unto me." And that is the story called Christmas Legend by St. Nicholas. The next series of stories comes from a newspaper that was called the Sunday Morning Call that existed in Battle Creek between 1884 and 1886. And of all the newspapers that I've researched, the Sunday Morning Call is my absolute favorite. It was a weekly paper that came out on Sunday, and their writing when covering a story was just so well written and rich with detail, it's a historian's dream. Around Christmas time, they would include a Christmas supplement that was about 8 to 10 pages long in their normal paper, and it was filled with stories and poems, which also included some amazingly beautiful illustrations. It hails back to a time when newspapers were not just about news and events and drama, but they were a source of entertainment for their readers. And it's really a shame that this newspaper only existed for a few short years and only was published once a week. But what they did create was quite wonderful. So I'm going to share some of those stories with you now. This first one was published on December 21st, 1884, and it's called Atonement. And it's a poem from the viewpoint of a little girl making a Christmas atonement to her dolls. Bear with me as I try to capture the spirit of this one. "Twistmas will soon be here again, but oh, my dolly dear, I'm ever so much older than at Twistmas time last year. And I tries to be a better girl, for I learned the golden rule, as well as to read and paint and spell. You know I goes to school, and you must learn to say it, and try and 'member it too. Do unto others as you would that they should do to you. For 'twas 'cause you was so handsome from your head way down to your toes, and came all the way from Paris, and had such booful clothes, that I fordot all about my Peggy, and Dinah, and Susie, and Ned. Poor sings they've been awful lonesome. I guess they wish you were dead. For I hasn't played with 'em any since you came to live with me. Let's us ask 'em to forgive us, and we'll have a Twistmas tree, and give 'em lots of presents. Make 'em have such a lovely time that they'll forget they thought you was proud 'cause you was dressed so fine. And we all will love each other and be happy as happy can be. Then won't we have a splendid time at my dolly's Twistmas tree." Well, that was fun. Try repeating that yourself and see how well you do. This next one is an essay which was published in the same edition entitled The Christmas Spirit. And again, I'm including it here as it's a simple, wholesome message, which I think is something we could all benefit from. The Christmas Spirit. The Christmas season, best of all this year, is once more with us, and its joy and good cheer are felt by young and old alike. All the holidays are welcome visitors. But there is a touch of humanity that makes the whole world kin in the blessed Christmas that is found in no other holy or holiday. Christmas is humanity's day, and sorry the lot of those who fail to catch its meaning. Is there another day in the year when the attention of the world is drawn particularly to that fact that in Christ all men are brothers and should share alike in the happiness he came to bring? Whether consciously or unconsciously, it is the Christ idea we celebrate at each recurring Christmas, and in a measure, faint though it may be, we reflect back the spirit of his lovely life and teachings. His biography is told in 5 words. He went about doing good, and a love that finds expression in service for others is the most fitting tribute we can pay to the day that gave him birth. We do imitate him when we pay the kindly offices of affection that cheer up the sorrowing spirits of some hearts, the better and the happier. Well, I'll just let that one resonate for a moment and briefly tell you that if you like this video and like the work that I do on this channel and you would like to support my work, you can make a direct donation or a recurring donation on my LibrePay account in the link below. You can also check out my merchandise store and get a really cool design like my new Battle Creek Parks design. Now through the end of December, if you use the discount code HISTORY when checking out, you'll get an extra 10% off. Now let's get back to the Christmas stories. This next short story ran in the Sunday Morning Call on December 20th, 1885. It's entitled, "Had No Poetry in His Soul." "Georgie dear," said she, "didn't you say you spent last Christmas in the South?" "Yes, Kitty, and I enjoyed it very much." "I suppose you did some kissing under the mistletoe, didn't you, Georgie dear? You know, that is a favorite amusement in that section." What? Didn't you kiss under the mistletoe?" She She told me to, but Why didn't you do it then? Why, I wasn't going to kiss her foot. This apparently was run in the Newman Independent in 1885 and shared in the Sunday Morning Call. This next story ran in the same edition of the Sunday Morning Call. It's called The Christmas Stocking by H.C. Dodge. The article was typed in the shape of a Christmas stocking, which is kind of unique, and it's about a bad little boy writing a letter to Santa Claus. The Christmas Stocking. Dear Santa Claus, wrote little Will in letters truly shocking, I've been a good boy, so please fill a heaping up this stocking. I want a drum to make Pa sick and drive my mama crazy. I want a doggy I can kick so he will not get lazy. I want a powder gun to shoot right at my sister Annie, and a big trumpet I can toot just awful loud at Granny. I want a dreadful big false face to scare in fits our baby. I want a pony I can race around the parlor, maybe. I want a little hatchet too, so I can do some chopping upon our grand piano new when Mama goes a-shopping. I want a nice rubber ball to smash into flinders, the great big mirror in the hall, and lots of winders. And candy that'll make me sick so Ma all night will hold me, and make Pa get the doctor quick and never try to scold me. And Santa Claus, if Pa says I ain't naughty, it's a story. Just say if he whips me, I'll die and go to kingdom glory. This next story is also in the same edition of the Sunday Morning Call. Being that we've had a story about a bad boy, it's only fitting that we have one about a bad girl. This story is called A Thoughtful Sweetheart. Only one thing I ask, darling, she whispered. What is it, my own sweet? He yelled. Let our engagement be a secret for a month. Why? No, let me tell the world you are mine. Let me show them the prize I have won. Not for a month, dearest. One little month, I beg you. Why do you want to keep it a secret? I fear you do not love me. I adore you. You are the only man I ever loved. But you are poor. But I will be rich. With you, love, I will work for wealth. Yes, darling, yes. But Harry is wealthy. George is well off. William has plenty. And several of my admirers have money. Still thinking of your admirers? Yes, dear. For Christmas is next week, and they have all given me handsome presents on previous occasions. Thoughtful angel, forgive me. Let us wait a year. So I must admit, I found that last one a bit humorous, so I had to include it. This last story is another poem in the same edition of the Sunday Morning Call. I found it really special as it's not only a portrait of an older person admiring the youth, but is also fitting for the time with mentions of sleighs being pulled by horses. And in its own way, it's quite charming. So I present to you His Christmas Sled by James Whitcomb Riley from 1885. I watch him with his Christmas sled he hitches on behind, a passing sleigh with glad hooray, and whistles down the wind. He hears the horses clamp their bits, and bells that jingle, jingle. You woolly cap, you scarlet mitts, your miniature Kris Kringle. I almost catch your secret joy, your chucklings of delight, the while you whiz where glory is, eternally in sight. With you I catch my breath, as swift your jaunty sled goes gliding, o'er glassy tract in shallow drift, as I behind were riding. He winks at twinklings of the frost, and on his airy race its tingles beat to redder heat the rapture of his face. The colder, keener is the air, the less he cares a feather. But there, he's gone, and I gaze on the winteriest of weather. Ah, boy, still speeding o'er the track where none returns again. To sigh for you, or cry for you, or die for you were vain. And so speed on, the while I pray all nipping frost forsake you. Ride still ahead of grief, that may all glad things overtake you. Well, that's going to conclude today's tour through some history of the Christmas stories and traditions from the 1800s in Battle Creek, Michigan newspapers. If you liked today's video, please take a minute to hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel because we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we certainly could use your help and support, so please share the video with others and encourage them to do so as well. And from Mocha, the reindeer, and myself, we wish you a very Merry Christmas. Thanks for watching.